You got me with it this time, Adam.
Yeah, you did.
That was perfect. I kind of did want to bring that stuff up in a second. Um, let's check out the sponsors. Get that out of the way. Give them the praise that they are due, the appreciation that we have for them, and then we'll talk about Halloween weekend, some current news, see what's going on with Adam, etc. Then get into the show.
I think everybody by now knows Jazz Cabbage Cafe is, of course, sponsored by Stone Depot, Redemption Cannabis, Real Leaf Solutions, Detroit Nutrient Company, GrowGreenMI.com, Custom 420 Promos, and, of course, CultureClothing.club.
And soon to be included will be Meds Cafe.
Nice.
Just talked to CEO Josh Covert, and everybody's happy about it. So looking forward to that myself. They meet the criteria. So holiday weekend, or Halloween, which is of course celebrated by many, and we did this ourselves this weekend. Had a really good time, and just curious how it went for everyone. I participated in the Meds Cafe Halloween promotion, and which was also in part a fundraiser in one of the locations. And we're going to get into that later on in the show because we're going to be joined by people who participated in that, including Josey. It's been too long since she's been on, but she'll be on later on. And got to work with Rick indirectly, crossing paths, intersecting in a spot in the industry, and having some fun. I just thought that was really cool, and I just wanted to point that out because he was up there repping Redemption, as he makes public appearances for on a regular basis, and I was there supporting the store's promotion, and it was
in
cool.
Alpena and Rogers City on Friday this weekend. Yes,
right on. Hung out a little bit.
Saturday night, I was at Vehicle City Social for their big costume party.
Very cool. Yeah, a lot of times that was Daboween, but the tradition continues.
Kirk Reed is the founder of Daboween, and it's not Daboween without Kirk. And he was in Oklahoma City, but he sent me a photo of his. He's very famous for one particular costume. He likes it to be a one-night stand. He dresses as a nightstand, like you'd have next to your bed, and walks around just one night stand. And he won $700. So staying in Oklahoma was a lot better than coming to Vehicle City and spending a bunch of bread, I think.
It's interesting. He went to go do a Daboween there, and I don't know what the details are, but he ran into some kind of controversy and stuff, and ended up not doing it. But he wants to come back up here next year, from what I understand. So,
well, we certainly had a good time at Vehicle City on Saturday. We had fire performers. We had the belly dancers were there. An interpretive dance person was there who did a great job too. There were quite a few things that were kind of unique about that experience. And if you've never been to Vehicle City, you have to have a medical marijuana card. It's up in Flint, but if you do, it's the only place in the nation like it. Promise.
It's pretty cool. And then we just gave out candy and stuff. As we were discussing before the show, I kind of wish we would have gone down to, I would have hit Cannabis Council for a little bit for their traditional party. That's always fun and a good time. Just didn't have the energy for it this year. I hope to get back on track though, but those are cool.
I know it's your first year in the house in Ferndale, Jamie, but I've been here in Flint Township for a while, and we had more trick-or-treaters this year than we've had in years past. I also can tell you, in my impression is that there were a lot more houses that were decorating this year for the Halloween. Maybe it's everybody's coming out of the pandemic and we're letting it all hang out like we used to, or maybe the cost of some of these decorations are so cheap now that everybody can afford them. I don't know what it is, but this year I thought there was a lot more spirit than there has been in years past.
I haven't participated. This is, as you said, first year. Before that, I was in an apartment in second floor in Detroit that didn't get involved at all with trick-or-treaters. So haven't really had the experience in a long time or have anything to compare it to.
Yeah, but every night.
Yeah, Devil's Night every night. And Our street was like kind of lame. There was some decent participation, but a lot of houses on both sides of the street, a few rows, 2, 3, 4 at a time, just all dark, not participating at all. And so we had a few come through our street. It was fun, interacted with enough kids, but it wasn't that incredibly busy or participatory, I guess.
How was Royal Oak, Adam?
Yeah, what'd you do,
I
Adam?
had so I had twice as many kids as I did last year, and I have a 10-year-old that's obsessed with the blow up things that you plug in and they write. So my yard is full of these things, and he wasn't even around for Halloween. He went to his grandmother's house and hung out in that neighborhood. So I felt like, if you're going to have the neighborhood with the big decoration set up, then you also have to give out candy. So I ended up giving out candy last night, sitting on the porch for an hour and a half, 2 hours.
It's fun though.
Yeah, it was fun. And, it was kind of interesting. But we had twice as many people as we did last year. And I did notice a lot more people decorating for Halloween. And I think that may come from the pandemic itself, where that's what people did because they weren't trick-or-treating for a couple of years.
Yep.
But we had a good time. I had a good time. I was alone. Kids didn't get back till late. So.
I bet they had fun though.
Oh, they have fun. Yeah. They
I was driving down Linden Road in Flint, and all of a sudden there's just this huge traffic jam, and there's no reason for it at this particular time of night on this particular road. No reason, except it's right in front of a car dealership who is doing a trunk or treat. And so all of the cars, the parents bringing their children there to do trunk or treat, and they had backed up all the way onto the road. They had police there with lights on to direct traffic to make sure everybody got through safely. That's how busy it was for this trunk or treat event. Just love to see people getting out and being involved in community again, even if it's candy related.
There's a few of those around here, and I almost think that a lot of people like to do that as opposed to hitting the neighborhoods as much.
Oh yeah, that's popular. The little kids, those are much more popular than walking the neighborhood.
I also went to an apple orchard this weekend and got cider and donuts and all that stuff, and they had trick-or-treating in their different greenhouses as well. So a ton of families showed up with costumes on, and it was really an extended experience this whole weekend. Rarely do I get a chance to really do Halloween the way that I did this year.
And just to wrap up a little bit, something we were talking about before, I just want to point out, at the Alpina store in Meds Cafe, and I think maybe in Rogers City too, there was a deal on shake. It was like this sugar leaf from I think the type is Super Boof. And I was listening to the description and the cost, and I was going, that sounds right up my alley, actually, and I wanted to check it out, and just visually, I was kind of impressed by it and the essence that it provided. And they don't need any help getting rid of it. People are hip to it, so it's not like I'm trying to promote it for purposes of sale. But $15 for this ounce of sugar leaf that has
26.8%
flavor,
not
effect,
that matter, but yeah,
yep, everything. So I don't know how long that goes on, but man, I was really happy with that.
So tasty.
It's not pre-ground. It's not just like big leaves or weird, like unwanted parts of the plant or something like that. It's really sugar leaf. You can see the trichomes all over it. There's little
smells so great.
They bunch up around. Look at it.
Yep.
I don't know. It's pretty reasonable. So let's put it that way. I was very impressed.
Well, as you heard me talk about my weekend here, and I don't want to monopolize or anything, but I went to an unregulated market kind of thing, which is Vehicle City Social, as well as having been at regulated market events too, like Friday at Two Meds Cafes. Most of us that have been around for cannabis in a while do that. We go to both regulated and unregulated events. Adam, maybe only unregulated events because
No, he's been to some regulated events.
Yep.
I sneak in. I try not to get photographed though.
Yeah, he did get photographed, myself and Harry Barash, a few weeks ago.
But the fact is that's what we should all be able to do. We should all be able to use any kind of sourcing that we want. There shouldn't be a whole bunch of problems. There's a big enough pie for everybody. It's $2 billion in the regulated market right now this year, maybe this calendar year, even if not the fiscal. And the regulated or the legacy market is probably twice that. So when we're looking at it, why shouldn't we be able to use all available sourcing? I mean, as a medical marijuana patient, I am allowed to acquire my cannabis from any source, no matter what, where, how, or why. So at that point, I don't really fear any police interactions. There shouldn't be any fear of that anyway.
I think it's more like 9 minutes, but this just popped up. I think the 420 looms in a few minutes. So
he said loom.
Yeah. So, just wanted to, I guess, touch on a few newsworthy things that I found interesting. There was a recent ruling in a federal court in the Viridis case, and I guess I knew that there's challenges in state court, and we a lot of us watched the court of claims hearings on YouTube and stuff like that, and I know that upcoming toward the end of the month, I guess, will be some action in those courts. But there's a federal case, and a judge just ruled that it can proceed. They knocked off some of the contentions, but it can proceed on some grounds. I just read it a minute ago, on the grounds of violation of substantive due process. And this has to do because near Viridis North and the Viridis labs in Lansing are connected. They have the same processes and same stakeholders and all that kind of stuff, but they are two separate entities. And all the evidence that the state had originally to cause the recall and the investigation and all that kind of stuff all really pertain to the Lansing location. Mm-hmm. And so Viridis, that's why half the stuff was brought back onto the shelves. People remember the ruling by the judge at the time. And so this is about that. This is about not being treated, properly constitutionally. And so they're challenging that in federal court. Be interesting to see what happens, I guess, but it's a technical mistake. I mean, to drag this out like this doesn't mean that the state wasn't right in pointing out a shitty process.
And it seems like issues. From the snippet that Jamie had read to me earlier, which, by the way, might be helpful if you read that again, Jamie. Sure. That snippet seemed to imply that all of the things that they could sue for monetary damages were taken away by the judge in federal court, and they're allowing them to proceed on the whole "you guys were wrong, we were right" basis. But there's not a whole lot of actionable things or a lot of litigation there. So
U.S. District Judge Paul Maloney on Thursday ruled Viridis North's claim for a violation of substantive due process can move forward, but its other claims, including violation of the Equal Protection Act and tortious interference with business relationships, cannot.
Yeah.
Which doesn't mean they didn't break the rules.
No, it does not mean that at all.
Mm-mm.
But it means that it wasn't demonstrated, and that technically they should have done that before they imposed these conditions on them, and that's probably true. You're right though.
These conditions on one of their two locations,
right?
Because it appears that the conditions were appropriate for one of their locations.
Right. And I think what the federal court did was said that you can't prove that anyone maliciously did these things to you. It seems like this was in the course of a normal action, even if it was later ruled to be inaccurate. So if there's no malicious intent, then these torturous interference with business, that's something that people use to sue each other with for monetary damage. And I think the judge just threw out all of that stuff. Hello, Richard. We got a lot of wonderful people watching today.
He was traveling. I know he chimed in on Medical Mondays last night from Atlanta on a layover.
Yeah,
He is an Atlanta kind of guy, right?
I think he went to Alabama to see his football team.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, he loves the football.
Yeah.
A
He's
great
also pointing out
great,
that is the same judge we were just talking about is the one who sentenced Danny Trevino.
Yeah. Yep.
Go ahead, Rick. Sorry about that.
No, it disgusts me that we have people in office that still, that still have positions where it's been so wrong. And Danny is a perfect case of how President Joe Biden's recent effort to issue pardons really didn't go far enough and was really just window dressing, it seems. Obviously, if you had a ticket in a national park, this helps you out. I'm sure that takes it off your record. But as Stephen DeAngelo pointed out, and others have as well, nobody was freed from jail. There's no releases associated with this particular declaration. And I love the fact that he's encouraging states to consider doing the same thing too. But let's encourage the states to be bold, not tepid. We need real relief, not just window dressing.
There is an expungement bill that I guess has some momentum in Congress or in the Senate. Schumer discussed it. I don't have the article handy. I did kind of check it out though. I don't know how far it goes, but there's a banking and expungement bill that has some momentum right now, I guess, in federally. So hopefully that might help out a little bit. But you're right. What he did was, an incremental move. It was still substantial in that the president did something like that. Wish it could have gone a lot further. Did do the direction for evaluating whether or not to move or to re or deschedule cannabis. Saw another article on that recently too, in which it was pointed out that DEA will ultimately have the final say, even though these organizations are the DOJ and the health department are looking at what it means. And I think they use the term flexibilities in the scheduling.
I'd love to think that the Attorney General Merrick Garland would be able to deschedule or reschedule it at his will if he decides that that's appropriate. But I think you're right. The DOJ is just so involved. I can't see them not weighing in on the final thing, even if they don't have the exact authority to say no or yes.
Yeah, well, that's the department that he heads up that is doing this in part, and that can be charged by the president to make this evaluation or make this recommendation. He can still do whatever he wants. Ultimately, he can by executive order change this, I believe, even if the recommendation of the AG is to not do it.
There's still some question as far as it goes, but I'll point out that with
it's still cool. But I agree with you. There's so much more.
And you know what? That's one of those things where you don't want to do it wrong. If you try to do federal legalization and you fuck it up, then all of the people that were against it are now reinforced in their belief that it was the wrong move. But I just wanted everyone to think about this. President Obama initiated the Cole Memorandum, where he really said the federal government is not going to mess with states that are having their own individual cannabis experiences, provided they adhere to these 12 different things, which include no diversion to minors, no traffic over state lines, and things like that. And then we have this move from Biden. And in between, we had asshole, and he didn't do a damn thing. So when we talk about how there's really only one party involved in trying to make things better for cannabis in the United States of fucking America, we're not kidding. It's true. The Democrats are the only ones that have done anything. Mitch McConnell has stopped so much cannabis legislation from advancing. The Senate Republicans have stopped all good cannabis laws from coming out of the federal government for a very, very long time. So, and same thing here in the state of Michigan as well. If you look at the MMFLA and how screwed up that particular program is, you'll know that was created by a Republican-dominated House and Senate, and that's what they gave us. And of course, that was the Republican Governor Snyder who signed that at the time. So they had the trifecta, and that's what they came up with, and it's all screwed up and terrible. So
that sucks. Here we go. So we do have important elections coming up.
Dania, is that what it's supposed to be?
Yeah.
Dania.
Deper, no. It's genius.
DePerno's just crazy. The dude was. Have you seen? You're shaking your head at him because you know it's true. This guy's nuts.
Yeah, but the nuts are. Listen, the nuts are. You can fly your nut flag now. It's okay to be nutty.
Well, as you pointed out many times, it's good that people do that so we can identify who the real bad people are.
Yeah, some of these people, if they wouldn't have said some of the things they said, we wouldn't have known how crazy they were. I mean, I love these crazy people. To me, it's like they're guaranteeing themselves not to get elected.
You know, it certainly seems that way. I know for a while there was a bunch of people pandering just to Trump's kind of an attitude. But have you noticed how no Republican advertisements, none on TV, mention Trump at all? None.
No, but the ones that, it's interesting how the mainstream media outs the Trump endorsed candidate. I find that interesting because they try to use it against him.
I think that's true too. Except for Sinclair Media. Up here, Channel 12 and everything is controlled by Sinclair, which is a very conservative media group. And they certainly skew right on their broadcasts in mid-Michigan.
Yeah, but you would expect that type of organization in that location.
Yep. Wherever whatever somebody is saying, there's an original source of information that could, unless they're just bullshitting about it, that could ultimately be researched. And
but I mean, two different people watch the same accident and they have different stories. They experienced exactly the same thing, but their mental filter changes how they view it. So you can't come down to one unimpeachable truth about things because truth is subjective to your experience.
Well, we all know
an eyewitness thing is one of the least reliable recordings of fact that there is. It's not used scientifically at all.
I think
because of that.
I think a perfect example that we just talked about, and that's the statements and declarations that President Biden made that accomplished nothing. However, from an activist point of view, it keeps marijuana on the front page of the paper. It also, if you talk to the masses, who are the dumbest people on the planet, they think this guy took the first steps towards legalization. They don't know that he didn't free anybody.
The markets responded favorably to just that.
Right.
And I think it was the first step. Legalization is going to be a many step process.
It was still.
And you get this the first time the feds are moving.
It was historic, actually. I mean, it wasn't enough, but what he did was, still not done before.
Truth is true. Yeah, both are true.
The point is, there are people that think he actually accomplished something, people were freed or even expungement were offered.
They got that 6 words and they believe it completely, and then they'll never research anything more deeper than that.
That's exactly right. Which, to me, isn't such a bad thing because it moved the ball forward in their minds.
Now they're used to the thought of federal government decriminalizing cannabis. It's less scary now.
They think that Biden's on board, which I'm sorry, but he's had a couple of years. He hasn't done anything. I doubt he's going to do anything in the next couple of years. And, we're still waiting. We still got our hand out. Just like in Michigan, we got our hand out still. I mean, the governess, the governess, is that what we call her?
Governor.
Just the governor.
Oh, all right. Well, anyways.
The governess. Jeez.
That's what I called the last one. The point is,
Rick. Okay.
She's made all kinds of offers and promises that we're waiting on, which is okay. That's the game. We understand that. We know that. But now the federal government has made their initial volley, and that's a good thing. and it's a good thing because it keeps us alive. It moves us on the federal level. It's got people talking about it.
There are some states that feel inspired to be better with their policies because of it. They're encouraged.
Right.
I think it's a signal to all those communities that have been, back there going, no, we can't do anything. It's always going to be wrong. It's always going to be bad. And suddenly you get a move from the federal government that maybe allows you to legitimately change your mind. Sometimes people need a good reason to change their mind. And this might be that for some people.
Well, it's starting to make that excuse of, well, we take federal dollars, therefore we can't. Yeah. Whatever.
That is so old.
We can't research this. We can't allow you to use that.
Still alive and well, though.
It is alive.
Be enrolled.
And to me, it's offensive.
Yeah.
It's truly offensive. I mean, there's not too many things in the law that I don't find offensive, to be honest with you, but that's one of those things that it just doesn't. It's so egregious. It doesn't need to be part of our world.
Yeah. Well, we're forced to face certain realities, and one of them is that sometimes things that happen anywhere in the nation can reflect poorly on the industry and therefore on us too. Like the rumors we talked about for the last 2 weeks now of this woman who died on the East Coast from inhaling cannabis dust from a thing. Every time some child is supposed to have died because they overdosed on mom and dad's THC gummies, we all take a hit on that. It doesn't prove to be true. But
incidentally, go ahead, Adam.
I'll be honest. There's an acceptable level of death associated with every product on this planet. And the government will admit to it in the products and the things they're involved in. Insurance companies will admit to it when it comes to insuring companies that produce products. And if the best they can do is show us two bodies, we have more than a win.
Yeah, and that was retracted, though the concept that there was a direct, causal relationship between cannabis and the death was retracted. But also Stacy, who's really interested in that, has been on the show many times, takes great interest in the just labor laws and the effects of what's been going on in the cannabis industry. Might jump in later on in the show, and be interesting to get an update from her on what's going on with that, if anything else. And Mark and Tony Shenaniquet joining us, jumping on the discussion.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Doing?
Good to see you.
Red Setters here. Welcome. Bros Grow Show, and of course, Polarity Science. People should check out.
Can you hear us all right?
Yeah,
can, man.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Yep. Bob Young reminds us they still use the alibi in courts. If it's not federally legal, we don't honor it. They also take eyewitness testimony in courts, and we just heard Jamie say that's the most unreliable form of any kind of testimony there is. But courts can only do with what they're given, and our system.
Courts put a lot of weight on it. They think that the eye testimony means a lot, but scientifically it doesn't. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, no, and it's true that again you can see something, and because of your particular life filter or the belief system that you have, you can see it one way or another. I see a woman taking off her burqa in Iraq as a symbol of freedom and expression, and the Iranian guy standing next to her probably sees it as an issue of defiance and criminality. So we're both witnessing the same thing, but using our filter.
Mm-hmm. Perspective.
Yeah, exactly. So
Mark and Tony, we've bitched about Viridis a little bit. That's always fun.
Yeah.
Talked about Halloween.
Oh, you talked about I was listening to you when you were talking about Halloween. We did some cool shit on Halloween. We went and got a room at the resort, and we stayed up there and had a nice romantic night. We went out and watched the kids play, and just got really faded and had a really great night.
We went to Kalkushka for the
weekend. We did go to the Kalkushka lounge. They were having a costume party. We got to be the judges for their costume party.
That's fun.
Did you get to
we
come
picked,
across Tom and Krista Beller or one
They
or the
weren't
other?
there.
No, they weren't. I didn't
Uh,
recognize anybody. The only
Brooklyn
ones I really
Elaine was there. I
recognized
saw
was
some photos of
Harley
her.
and Chris.
Yeah, Brooklyn was dressed as Marilyn Monroe. I saw some photos. So
Right on.
nope,
Yeah,
lots
we
of
picked
fun
Morticia.
people up there.
Good. Hope you guys
And
had
you know
some
that
fun.
lounge drags a lot of people, even for their puff and paint parties that they
Oh,
do,
I
like
where
that.
everyone
Oh, yeah.
smokes and paints at the same. Seems like fun.
Yeah, I like that. It's always nice to have a coach there to help you with painting. I do paint, so it's nice to have somebody there to say, "Oh, you could do this better."
I'm the guy that sets
wow,
the
that's
low
really
bar. I love to do it, but I don't do it very well. So
Well, it's
everybody
funny to
say,
see what
"These
comes
lines
out
better
at
than
the
yours."
end after you puff a whole bunch. Then
Those original ones with Mary Jane, the Puff Puff Paint, used
So
to have
fun.
an art therapist was the person that directed all that.
Big Cloud.
right on.
Organic Cup,
Okay.
11-11 and 11-12.
Benton Harbor.
Benton Harbor.
I can't hear him really well.
We're not really saying anything right now, but how's
Oh.
that?
Speak up
Well,
then.
he,
Yeah,
Adam mumbled Benton Harbor.
Adam mumbled Benton. Sorry.
that's okay. So, this election day, there are 32 cities with marijuana ballot proposals on the docket for people to vote on. And I think some of them are from up north as well, too.
That's historic, by the way.
Yeah, 32 is amazing.
I don't know that that's ever been the case anywhere.
There are a few different things, and some are not without some controversy.
Yeah. I was going to say, hopefully they're all for good.
Now, some
No,
are
they're not.
some are
They're not all
anti,
good.
some are to opt out.
Oh, no.
In
Some are to
Benzie
reverse
County,
shit that's already in motion, which would be a really weird one.
in Benzie County, Frankfort has one. Grand Traverse County, Green Lake Township has one. I'm just thinking about the ones that are up north. Gladwin and Tobacco Township has one. And Wheatland Township in McCostick County has one also.
Wow.
So, and some of those are bans. They're not all positives.
And some, although they're like positives, they include stuff in it that might be challengeable or being done in a way that might be challengeable.
Well, I got a visit at the house. I thought it was kind of cool. I was sitting on my fire pit, breaking open some hemp stalks to start a fire and burn some brush. And this lady, she started walking towards me into my yard. I was like, I don't know. What are you selling? But she's like, I'm running for state house of representative. Her district is 104 and her name is Kathy Albro. Have you ever heard of her? Well, this gal sat down with me, and my first question was, she's a Democrat, and my first question was, what is your position on cannabis? And she said, I'm a user, and the people that I'm running with, this Barb Conley for Michigan, and I'm open up this conversation, right? So she has cancer, and she's pro-cannabis. And then this guy is also running with them, and his name's Dr. Bob Lawrencer, and he's also pro-cannabis.
I've seen the Dr. Bob promotions when I was up there, and when I first heard about it, I was wondering if it was the
Townsend.
Yeah, the doctor who was participated in the industry giving recommendations. I think based out of Mount Pleasant, but working all over up north. And
I thought
I
it
love
was cool.
I love that you're sharing the names of pro-cannabis candidates. Thank you for doing that.
Yeah, that's what it's about.
Make a list.
Next week we're going to do kind of a regular show, so to speak. There's some. Oh, it's Adam with his torch. Probably.
My torch. No, I'm sorry, but for some reason, I
sound like static.
The mute button is.
I do that.
The mute button.
He's just huffing gas to get high instead of actually doing a
behind
dab.
the flames, so he couldn't hit it. Nope. In my neighborhood, Jasper Martis, who's a Democrat running for state house, came by, and I bent his ear for about 10 or 15 minutes and gave him my card and everything, and he didn't really take a stand on cannabis, but was very receptive and learned a lot from his time here with me. And I'm excited about it. He's one of the younger people in the race. He's in his 30s. I love the fact that we might have someone who could be a champion for our cause this early in their career, that they could really, push forward into higher office and take that pro cannabis stance with them. So
Yeah. Well, we talked about House Bill 5706 and with the language that they added to it.
That's
somehow.
the bill we've discussed here a few times. It has to do with creating a compact with tribal businesses to get incorporated into the metric system, et cetera. And have those discussions. And that we noticed the shitty open-ended funding police language. Just want to reference that. Keep going, Tony.
Yeah. So I asked her, if she was familiar with that, and she didn't, and she wrote it down, and she's like, can I get your email and stuff? Because I told her this language was found in a couple of different acts. So wasn't it found in MRMA? Was it not found in MMFLA?
It's in the MMFLA, which is fine. That was passed by the legislature. That was part of it. The police have an apportionment that's spelled out in there. They get 5%, up to 5% of what's raised in order to help implement, enforce, and other things. And that's restricted to the regulatory scheme of the medical commercial system. In the end of last session, there was a talk of combining these licenses. And one of the things that we opposed was bringing that provision from the MMFLA and bringing it into the new single, license thing. The MRTMA has to do with individual rights. It's not just, it's not just within the regulatory scheme of a commercial system as the MMFLA is. There's no apportionment for like what the police would get. And if we're going to start getting into that and getting into the percentages that we already have apportioned, I mean, I think that people who want to see some funding for social equity might say, hey, well, while we're chipping away different percentages to things, let's look at doing this. Or maybe people have other ideas. It's not something you can like just do like that. Or you might be able to do something like very much, at least, limit it to some necessary things or to the commercial considerations, the regulatory implementation and enforcement and that kind of stuff. But as it is, it's just completely wide open, could cover anything, and being reimbursed for a lot of different stuff. It's not narrow in its scope as it is kind of in the MMFLA. We didn't like that, and we didn't like bringing that into the MRTMA last time around. But this time coming in a completely different bill and without any of the other context or limitations or anything like that, that's what we take issue with.
Right. And then they added another segment in there for tax a tribe.
I didn't read that.
So that's part of it too. That's part of it, and the and how it would work on the products.
It's just like creeping in with more and more. It feels like, and taking away from the, isn't it just okay to give tribes a metric number and allow them into buying in their commercial system, because that would behoove them for licensees to bring all that money in. Why did they have to have any kind of compact or making up rules and regulations to deal with tribes? Because the federal government is going to deal with tribes.
I can see how it's done different ways. Maybe could be there has to be some like agreement to point to for how products from a tribal business would be included into the metric system, or how they might buy stuff from that system, and and that kind of stuff. Something has to be spelled out to describe how that works, and
right,
and that kind of stuff.
Regulations that go with it.
But also you could see, like, depending on what the details are, like anything, may or may not like how that goes down. I mean, the idea of combining licenses isn't a bad idea, I don't think, but the devil's in the details again. We didn't like a lot of the stuff that went along with it when it was attempted last time.
Well, we're going out on November 15th and 16th, we're going out to Washington, D.C., and we're going to be part of the Indigenous Cannabis Policy Summit. And that's being put on by the Indigenous Cannabis Industry Association, ICIA.
Very cool.
So I'm really excited to go out there and be part of that. They want to have tribal stakeholders be speakers to be able to express what our needs are, what we need as an individual tribal member company. So we're trying to get some support for the individual tribal member, because
Cool.
CRA is having meetings with tribes and we don't even know what the content is of the conversation.
Well, that's not really the CRA's fault, though, right? That your tribal elders are the ones that are not informing you about what they're doing. Isn't that accurate to say?
Exactly. Yes.
And is your band, is Grand Traverse band that you guys work with a lot, and are probably going to be at this conference representing to some degree? And
We don't represent them at all. We're
We're
just
MITHCA.
members of the Grand Traverse band.
okay,
Right.
We go as MITHCA, which is the Michigan Tribal Hemp and Cannabis Association.
okay,
So that's who we represent.
right.
But we someday are wanting to, represent all 12 tribes in Michigan in the cannabis and hemp industry. So that's ultimately our goal. So that's what we're trying to work on with going to Washington to, get more contacts and, just become a force in the indigenous industry of cannabis. So
Right,
Cool.
that's excellent. Yeah,
Mary
that
Jane
should be
Oatman of
more
THC
of a discussion.
Magazine. Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Tony.
Mary Jane Oatman of THC Magazine. She's also she was with the Obama administration. She's Native American from out west, and she is involved in this ICIA and the Policy Summit. We were on a Zoom call with her, and it was probably 17, 18 other tribes around the United States. Pine Ridge Reservation was on there. We were all talking about growing cannabis and having cannabis for medicine, completely like-minded. And it was just the most beautiful conversation
That's
that you could imagine. So
Yeah.
we want to be more part of that. It's not, it can't be assumed that tribal administrations or councils will send that information down to tribal members. That
Yeah.
can't be assumed.
Well, and there are some that are more proactive in trying to push this than
Mhm.
others, and I don't know how much the leadership of Grand Traverse has been involved. I really don't know, but I know that Bay Mills has been one,
Yeah.
and that makes more sense. It's kind of like deeper into being involved in this activity. Creating the store up there, the Northern Lights provisioning. I think there's cultivation on hand.
You're
So
starting, you're getting there. Yeah.
if they're going to
Good.
produce if they're going to produce product and
Yeah.
flour and make products and stuff like that, they're one store up there, depending on how big of an operation they want to get involved with, probably isn't going to be the only thing they want to put those products in. So to be
Right.
able to get in on the formal market and just without any hassles, get their
Yeah.
stuff into other stores is probably the motivating, factor, because they're so, already deeply involved in the marketplace and, developing their store and getting their cultivation going and all that kind
Right.
of stuff. So,
And they use the caregiver market because they don't have access to any of the commercial licenses.
Right.
And, so what their revelation is that the caregiver, it's not even supposed to be a market, but the caregivers are providing them way more and better substantial products that they could get from.
do you think they plan to continue to do that after
Yeah.
all these agreements are settled and everything?
Yes,
That's still
I
going to
do.
be their model?
I hope
Okay.
so.
I believe that they'll
I like that a
purchase
lot.
from both.
Yeah. The
And
concept that they get to do
yeah.
cooler shit, and then that might have some type of an effect on our system, as
Yeah.
far as the statewide scheme
Exactly.
goes, is a nice influence. I like that a lot.
Yeah, exactly. And, being able to connect with the other tribes outside of Michigan, when tribes get together and there's another state, I can't remember what they said, what state it was, but there's 5 tribes in another state that
Nevada.
it was Nevada, that have an agreement with their metric system, their operating system. So they're actually doing it out in Nevada.
See, oftentimes we just need an example of some place where it's successful, so we can say this is what we want for our people. And that way, people don't have to, try and craft something brand new. That's
Right.
always what screws people up, is when they try and reinvent the wheel.
Yeah.
I'm glad that there's people out there making progress that we can look at and maybe emulate, because it's a good program. I'm also glad that it's not just the tribal councils that are actually going to be heard in DC, that it's actual people on the front line doing the real work.
Yeah.
that they're
Hands
gonna
on,
have.
boots on the ground.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what you were saying before too. Like, the lack of participation isn't necessarily the tribal leaders could be involved in those conversations, but there's a lot of the population that probably would like to have more influence.
Yeah,
that's
a lot
what's
of times
lacking.
you're going with the tribal council that's never been involved in the industry, and they're just learning. So, they're not plant touchers, they're not processors, they're not, so they're not involved in the industry and trying to make choices that are going to be better for their next 7 generations, but they're not plant touchers. So, there needs to be this.
If their source of information is law enforcement or regulatory agencies, that's not really at all a good picture of what they need and how they can possibly grow and help their people.
Yeah, those communities have been traumatized by those kind of people for many, many years. So
But why would they trust the voices now? Right.
exactly.
And I'm sure some people will say, oh, there's nothing to worry about because of the process where the local enforcement on tribal lands has to be consulted for different things. But this language also that we're discussing, now that the inclusion of this business would be formally placed into the MRTMA, I just wonder where the lines are, if that is the enforcement arm, and so now that's the law and that's what you sign up for. And so if the state police believe they need to even cross into tribal lands in order to enforce something upon these businesses, that they would just do it until
we can't even allow that to be presented as a legislature. I mean, you just can't.
Well, it's already passed the House. It's like we're trying to do some stuff, but I'm not feeling that confident that it's not necessarily going to pass as it sits there. I just don't know if that's a real concern. And I don't like to think that anybody's thinking about taking it that far, but.
Did you get your letter to Jeff Irwin and all the information that we talked about?
I've been keeping him updated with everything. He's very aware of what's going on. He's trying to be realistic about it, though. I also believe.
Yeah. Well, that was one of the things that I talked to this Kathy Albro about, was what her position is on tribal sovereignty and doing cannabis with tribes. So she was like, she understood the need to not touch on sovereignty and impede in anything in there, because when you try to change one thing, and so the state comes in and they do something with CRA and they have a compact, now hunting and fishing regulations wants to use some words that you have in this compact. So you can pretty much take down the empire of Native America that way. No more treaties, It's that imperative. That's how I feel about it.
So, well, I was curious because I'm not sure if it's viewed, if this broad language just seemed to slip through everybody and people aren't concerned with it. I wonder if that's because there's no reason to be concerned with it, or because it's just been slipping by and it's assumed that it doesn't necessarily reach into these places that it shouldn't.
When
I'm sure if people have had questions about it, I'm sure the lobbyists for the particular interest groups or the CRA, or it's actually Kevin Rinke's bill. It's not Yusuf Rabi's bill. I thought it was Yusuf's bill, but it's Kevin Rinke's bill.
It's Representative Hawk, rather. I apologize. Right, Hawk, who's head of regulatory reform,
who he and I have clashed in the past. So
yeah. And it's one of those ones that can slip through and seem innocent without the implications really being thought through by people who see it. That's what I'm saying.
So where did it go in there? Did it go in from the drafter, or did it go in from somewhere down the road?
So because it's included in the Senate Fiscal Agency analysis, or the House Fiscal Agency analysis of the bill, that means it was there when it came out of Legislative Services Bureau. So it seems as if, because otherwise, if it was added by amendment, it wouldn't appear in that particular document because that document analyzed the bill as it was introduced. So it seems as if either it was included by Rep Hawk, which wouldn't surprise me at all because he's an MSP supporter.
With the insistence of the department saying they wanted it in or something, something like that, right?
We don't know what the department's involvement was. Okay,
Well, it's been said by Rep Robbie and by Robin that the CRA wanted that in there. When I brought it up to them, they both said they're the ones that wanted it in there.
There you go then. Okay,
Yeah.
so that's good evidence.
And what was the conversation that they had with tribes at their meetings that nobody else knows about but them?
I don't know what process took place to get to where they were with the bills at all. I do think that what happened here though confirms the reason why we keep on saying anytime, no matter what it is, when we're looking at changing the acts, there should be all stakeholders that get to view that process. And if something came up of interest such as this, we would have, people would have been there to bring it up.
Yeah, that's possibly why they didn't ask for input.
And that's unfortunately part of the problem too.
Hey, and it's the bill drafter that's responsible for that, not the CRA. It's the bill drafter. It's the legislature. So.
Okay, so we have Stacy is joining us. We were hoping that she'd come in. We were thinking maybe we'd get a little update on on some of the labor issues, and we know that there was a retraction of the listed cause of death for the worker in Massachusetts and stuff like that. And just
Taylor also says that Valor Craft is ready to go too, Jamie. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah, I got it. And
Stacy.
Hi guys, how are you? Thanks for having me on.
And then also joining us is Taylor Hottenstein with Valor Craft, who has been really extremely helpful in raising funds for Glenn lately, and a couple different fundraisers, and just really significantly getting some much needed resources into the organization to help people get their records expunged.
Great Lakes Expungement Network is
nice.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, it's been awesome.
And we might even hopefully we get Josey. It's been a long time since she's been on, but earlier today she said she'd come on and help celebrate and help praise your efforts for us. But let us know what's going on, at large. I know that we haven't had you on before. You have a story leading up to your participation here in the industry, and and just let people know a little bit more about yourself, and then we'll talk about the the fundraisers and charity and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, kind of what you guys were saying. My name is Taylor Hottenstein. I work for a company called American Fiber. It was started by James Brobin. He served in the Marines for 13 years, and upon being wounded in combat, came back and ended up getting into some nonprofit work, and then was using CBD and THC products to kind of help cope with all of the things that come along with such a traumatic situation. And then that led to the brand Valor Craft, and we launched about 2 years ago. Right now it's a pretty small team. I think it's like 8 or 9 of us that make all of this happen. And I am the only sales person we got on staff. So we hustle, we get out there and try to put the word out as much as we can. It was a couple months ago, we started, looking through like, how do we, set ourselves apart in a market that is very competitive, and there's a lot of similar weeds and a lot of similar prices, and we really kind of felt like we've been wanting to do. We've always done different types of initiatives, but we wanted to be really intentional about giving stores the opportunity to pick a nonprofit or a cause that they want to get behind. And then we wanted to just come in and raise awareness for that and kind of contribute our part too. And so that's where our Acts of Valor campaign was born. So we've done a ton of work with Great Lakes Expungement Network and Josey and her other nonprofit, Sons and Daughters United. And so we've enjoyed getting to know her. She's become one of my really good friends really, really fast.
Same.
So I know it's it's impossible to not become very loyal to her
Yes.
and try to do our best to help her just because of the type of person that she is and all of the work that she does. So, and I respect anyone with that level of hustle because I know how hard it is to be successful in this space, and she does a great job just in her own right. So, yeah. But as far as Great Lakes Expungement, network has there's particulars. We started talking about what could we do with some of our premier retailers, some of the people that we work with a lot. And she's really close with everybody at Great Lake or at Greenstem in Niles, Michigan. And they've already done so much nonprofit work on their own right, and I applaud them. They're really close to that whole store. And when they asked if we could come in and kind of start doing this with them, it was pretty much a no-brainer. I don't even think we knew what to expect with volume. I know they're busy; they're near the border, but we actually ended up selling over 9 pounds of Valor Craft within like a few hours. On the 14th, and they ended up being about $4,400 coming from Valor Craft and $4,400 coming from Greenstem. So really close to $9,000. I think we did a smaller initial event than the month before. We just didn't have as much product, and so we sold out really fast. So I think altogether, it did break $9,000 just going to Glenn. So we were super ecstatic. I don't even, like I said, I don't know that when I first came up with this idea, I didn't know what to expect, but for Greenstem to step up the way they did and honor that donation and that commitment was huge. And it just deepened our relationship with them, and it deepens our relationship with Josey and Great Lakes Expungement and everything you guys are doing over there. So yeah, it's been quite the journey, but I honestly am ecstatic with how well it's went.
It's a great
That's
number.
awesome.
That's great.
Yeah. And I think in total, we do this with other stores as well for different nonprofits. And with our CBD campaign that we did with our CBD brand as well, in total in October, we are over $19,000 in total donations for some donations are going to Veteran County Services in Flint, Michigan. With Genesee County Veteran Services. We did Sons and Daughters United and then Great Lakes Expungement Network so far. So really excited to keep it going and see what else we can do.
Very much appreciated. It's expensive to get people's licenses expunged, and the way that Glenn does it is unique and takes on the whole process. Sometimes there's some help with some cooperative efforts and getting records, research and some other things or fingerprints and some other things that are kind of costly. Maybe some other people kick in from time to time, but basically it does the whole process, including working with lawyers and making the filings and getting the final results. And it can get costly. And so that kind of money just very, very much needed. And it's very much appreciated.
Yeah. Well, and thank you. And I know I'm familiar. I know Jamie and Rick a little bit better than I know everybody else on here. So it's really nice to meet everybody else. I definitely have tuned into the show a few times, and it's critical that we have people at the forefront of this industry, like all of you that that are cognizant of the ethical ramifications of what we do here. I think I get to make a good living and I enjoy my job. It's a cool job. But I would be lying if I said I didn't stay up at night wondering about all the people who are still, dealing with the war on drugs and how cannabis has been, dealt with in the last few years and even beyond that. So, for me, it was just like, we can wait around and for the government to step up and try to help us here. But it seems pretty clear that even the attempts that have been made are not all the way there. It's not everything we need to do. It's so people like you guys doing the good work. We want to make sure we're backing you guys up and supporting the cause.
Thank you. The movie The Sentence of Michael Thompson just was aired on MSNBC, and that's a Michigan success story of getting a prisoner released But that's just one, and that is the best case scenario. And there are so many people still trapped up in the system. That's Stacy's specialty. She talks about that all the time. That's one of the reasons we love having her on. She can discuss that not only in Michigan but on a national basis to workers' rights and prisoners and things like that too. So we would be wrong to have all these conversations about possibilities and wonderful opportunity without still trying to respect the people that are jammed up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right on. Marijuana Moment tweeted, bipartisan lawmakers push Biden administration to free American imprisoned for medical marijuana in Russia. That's Biden.
And here too would be cool.
Yeah, I know that's one of the things we complain about. We spend so much time focusing on Brittany, and she should never be in prison. I think we're all in agreement.
No, I'm still good. Yeah, with that.
Terrible.
Sure.
But there's a lot of people here at home, in prison for less than what she's got. So statewide and federal, we need to pay attention to both. It's wrong for us only to focus on federal and then ignore the fact that Mississippi or Oklahoma or North Dakota's got some people in jail that for nothing.
It's real. I mean, one of the last Michael Thompson fundraisers, I wasn't there, but Rick is on the board, helped orchestrate it. We've certainly had Mike McCurdy and Marshall Clobo on here do a lot of work along those lines. And part of that whole event had families from other people who are still incarcerated and for decades, and just
50 years.
all the realness of it.
50 years. Yep. Have we not evolved past this? I mean, what happened to compassionate release? They just discontinue compassionate release anytime there's drugs, using the air quotes, drugs involved. You got people that are elderly that don't pose a risk to anybody. Let them live out the rest of their years out of the system. Come on, it's cruel and inhuman.
I agree. It's pretty stupid.
You can see 8th Amendment to the Constitution that prevents cruel and unusual punishment, and I think we have no common definition of that, and I think we should on a national basis.
Well, I'm still hoping that Josey pops on here to jump in on the conversation. I know that she really appreciates a lot of the work. Oh, look at this.
Jamie's
almost happening. It's almost happening. Look at that.
Unusual punishment
Is the connection.
Yeah, very unusually catching Josey participating with using cannabis too. This is a sighting.
Hey,
Josey smokes weed.
Shirt on too. I
Mark the
can see
date.
that. I see the gold circle. I know what you got.
I got 2 at a time too. I got like one for now and one for Brenda.
You need to have 2 for
own.
Brenda. Yeah.
The two of you together are a force of nature. She's the wind and you are the fire. So
So
A
I'm
lot of
excited.
cannabis gets consumed during that process.
Is that Mark and Tony?
Hey.
Okay.
I don't know how
One team today.
Stacy and Josey, I think you guys know each other, but
Yeah, we had a booth next to each other at the Hash Bash Cup.
Yep, Hash Bash, and yeah, we've met several times over the past year, Josey, for sure. So it's good to finally be on with you.
and both of you guys care a lot about labor laws and protecting workers' rights and treatment.
Right, and there's a lot going on. I know that you had brought up Lorna McMurray earlier, so giving an update on that, a recap of what happened. So apparently, she worked at True Leave and in Mount Holyoke, Massachusetts, and there was a lot of issues going on there as far as the air quality in the building. They were apparently provided with N95 masks, but that may not be the case. Lorna had asked her stepfather to borrow a respirator because she was having trouble breathing at work. One day she collapsed, and 3 days later, I read 2 reports that either died of cardiac arrest or she had suffered so much brain damage that, it was kind of over at that point. So originally OSHA in the report stated that she was, quote, killed from breathing in marijuana dust, end quote. That has since been removed from the official OSHA report. It says details to be added later. Not really sure why that happened. I know Jamie and I have had a couple conversations about it, and obviously there's a lot more to discuss now that this case has become so popular. I mean, you could Google her name at this point, and there's a BuzzFeed article that came up. So as tragic as this is, it is getting traction in places that I don't think OSHA really expected. So at this point, we're kind of looking at, okay, well, or if 5 masks were provided, are those adequate for the industry and for the department that she was working in? N95s, I quickly looked up on the CDC website. N95s, they are only good for like particulates, whereas a respirator mask helps with chemicals and gases and those types of things. Now, when OSHA says that she died of cannabis dust, are we talking about the plant, or are we talking about all the things that come along with it, right? Let's say somebody works at a distillery and they get killed on the job. Was it the Jack Daniels that killed them? No. So saying she was killed by cannabis, I don't really think is the good way to go about it.
They said there was poor air quality without a lot of explanation. What made it
Yes.
poor air quality?
Yeah, they did.
Something that gets through that kind of mask that
And a
still
typical
causes respiratory issues.
A typical diagnosis of death is more scientific, like respiratory failure or cardiac arrest. It's not tied to the cause of respiratory failure or the cause of cardiac arrest. So for them to make that statement seems so wrong, when really medically they should have just stuck with the medical diagnosis as opposed to the interpretation.
I would think that once the autopsy either came out or preliminary came out, they were forced to remove that line, because I assume the autopsy wouldn't show.
I think that's a fair assumption that was removed, and Stacy detailed greatly very well the change that went from death by cannabis to cause to be determined later. That's probably because medical evidence showed that original conclusion was false.
And probably never.
And in the report. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I just was going to say it was probably never made by any medical professional.
I mean, and when you read the OSHA report itself, they do. So True Leave was fined for, I think, 2 or 3 different citations, and one of those being the lack of training for the employees in regards to safety and using the equipment, using chemicals, and the things that come along with working at a large scale grow. Outside of that, they also stated that cannabis is obviously relatively new industry. However, it is recognized that there is occupational asthma risks that are coming up pretty quickly. And, about 15% of asthma in the United States is from occupational hazards. And those industries are like agriculture, forestry, nursing, manufacturing, things of that kind. So
Podcasting.
Yeah. Podcasting.
Yeah. Should be on the list. It's not probably, but should be.
Right. So, there's a lot more to the story here than we were originally led to believe. And, it is a very tragic situation. And, I heard you saying earlier, Adam, that there's always going to be, tragedies in every industry. It's kind of unavoidable, right? But we're in such an infant stage of this that there is no need for these deaths to be happening, right? Had there been respirators available, at the ready, maybe we wouldn't be talking about this right now.
And that's kind of the point, is that these deaths aren't
new regulations right there.
Because what's happening is the rules aren't being followed, which are then causing these deaths, meaning there is a safe way to do this. And if we follow the rules, then there is no harm.
I'm curious to see what the health status is of the other workers that were in a similar environment or who shared her job. There's a lot of debate in the community about whether or not she had underlying health conditions. Although I think the fact that True Leave accepted some fines and penalties means that there was some malfeasance on the part of the employer. So
Yeah.
I mean, I know people with actual get allergic reactions from cannabis that can't be in a grow facility without breaking out, requiring Benadryl and stuff like that.
I knew a woman that could not be in the room if you were breaking up a joint. If you smoked
Right.
it, the smoke did not bother her at all. But the creation of a joint, it would absolutely fuck with her.
Right. And
And sometimes people don't realize that either, you know, especially if you
Josey.
didn't really have. Oh, sorry, Josey.
No, keep going, Stacy.
Oh, so
Sorry.
yeah, no, I mean, sometimes you don't realize that you have an allergy until you're in a situation where it causes an allergic reaction.
In the presence
So-
of allergies, finally, yeah.
They're right. And you might not, you know, you have people that are getting into the cannabis industry, looking at it as a promising industry, that don't have experience with cannabis, that maybe have not been around it, may have not grown it. And once they're in that situation, that's when things can arise. So you might not realize that, you know, it's going to be an issue until after the fact.
well,
Right on.
that's exactly the problem on many levels.
I need to know what happens to this motherfucker when you break up weed around him. I need to know right now.
Oh,
Like,
she would
did
get
they
her
get
eyes would
sick?
totally get red. She
You
would start
saw the
sneezing
physical
fits.
reaction? I always
Yeah,
feel like it's Nancy Reagan, like reincarnated.
No.
For whatever reason, it just triggered her sinuses, all of this whole stuff up here.
Yeah.
It gave her a headache, had to leave. She worked
I
in her
will-
office, man. She was really a wonderful human being, but she just could not be in the back room while you were breaking up
Seems
joints.
like a great career path for her.
I know somebody in the cannabis business who cannot be around his crop when it's being harvested, and he goes back and he participates in harvesting, and he comes out all red-faced, his arms are broken out. And
I've had that reaction on my skin before from being heavily involved with working with cannabis and stuff.
I mean, this guy can't even be around it when he's breaking up a pound into ounces.
Dude, we're all freaky in one way or another, and some people are just freaky in that way. So
You have to recognize where your
that's what
sensitivities
we're
are, and then
which they are.
Is it uncomfortable or is it like a deadly, like if somebody gets stung by a bee, they're gonna die,
I don't think deadly.
right?
I don't think deadly. I think it's all
I
about.
think it just
That's
sucks.
what I
I
wanted
think,
to
yeah,
clarify.
I
Adam,
think it's just
but
a,
my story is about discomfort.
Yeah, I think it becomes a allergic reaction that isn't quite leading to anaphylactic type reaction, but is certainly triggering all of the I forget what they call them now. I'm sorry.
Histamines,
whatever the reaction is. Yeah.
Right, the histamines.
Yeah.
It trigger those things, and that's sending these people off.
Right on.
And you can see that physical reaction, which, I didn't believe it. And sure enough. And listen, most of us know this guy that I'm talking about.
Well, again, you got to know where you are with this stuff, and then behave accordingly. Some people are really sensitive. Most aren't, but
Like Misty's
But
got it.
still-
She's talking about there's lots of medical conditions that could create a sensitivity to that.
There's still a safe way to do this, even with those people in those reactions.
Even if there is, but why would we want to put that person in that position if we knew that there was a sensitivity? Wouldn't we move them to another part? And I see Stacy nodding her head. Wouldn't you just move that person to a safer job description within the same company? You wouldn't make that person suffer a penalty because they have an allergic reaction to the one job that you said you probably needed them for. You can find other ways to use personnel that don't put them at risk. Isn't that right, Stacy? I mean, we should treat people like individuals, right?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I mean, if you're able to, right? I spoke with somebody recently that unfortunately did have to let one of their workers go. They had tried several different avenues. This person was hired into a grow. They very quickly started having an allergic reaction. Couldn't work with the plant. They couldn't work with the plant. They tried to move them in a different area, and it was just too all-encompassing in that building be able to work comfortably and safely. And unfortunately, those are situations that we're going to run into in this new industry. It is what it is. are there standards when it comes to working conditions and inspections, right? So, we have OSHA, we have MIOSHA, and, there's several different inspections that have to happen, before you even become a working grow facility, right? Now, who is looking at these things, and are there occupational hazards being looked at? I've gotten word that there isn't a lot of occupational hazards being looked at. When the Bureau of, Fire Safety comes in, they're just kind of looking at CO2. They're not looking at dust or chemical exposure in any kind of capacity. And it's like what we're seeing may have related to Lorna's death is something that isn't just plant related, but the things that humans are adding to the plant in an indoor environment.
I'm not a real big advocate for adding new rules, but it just seems as if there should be, as Adam mentioned, there should be some existing rule set that covers this, that says you have to have adequate ventilation, you have to protect your people.
Yeah.
And obviously there's, in every government agency, there's a shortage of human beings to go out and do physical checks to make sure that people are in compliance. I don't know what the solution is to this. I mean, financial penalty, obviously. That financial penalty is what we use to discourage people from things. I'm sorry, Tony, go ahead.
Well, every time that there's an incident, that piles on more and more rules and regulations for us to follow. So as Stacey said, it's a industry that's in its infancy. So there's more that's going to be added when we find out. The more things that become revealed, more we're going to be having to address those things.
I want to talk about this some more, but I kind of want to switch gears a little bit and get to Josey and some of the charitable stuff going on in the season that's coming up. And we haven't been blessed with an appearance for a while. She actually was specifically against doing podcasts for a while. And so this is we are
podcast. Just podcast where they talk about their dicks. That was it. That was like but I was like, I'm not gonna do it, guys. I can't. I'm 28 now.
And so she didn't.
Oh,
Too
such a
old
burden for you. Oh no.
But certainly
Well, I wanna
appreciative of all the help from Taylor recently and the good work from Valor Craft's participation in these things. I know that you wanted I'm sorry, Valor Craft. I know that you wanted to make sure that you
It's
gave them
you gotta know what it's called.
due recognition. Yep, you're right. And it should be correct, just like your name should be spelled correctly and all that kind of stuff.
Should be.
Well, I checked, even though I typed it in, I was like, wait a minute, what are you saying? What does this say now?
Right.
And then also, of course, so there was a lot of help for Glenn. He mentioned that he also donated to Sons and Daughters. Holiday special Christmas help for families is coming up, all that kind of stuff. And you just do all that great work. And at the base of it, redemption.
I'm really excited. Every year we come here, we talk about our holiday drive, and it's my favorite time of the year. I think it's an industry favorite. It's our 7th year in a row doing it. We just had probably the most successful fundraiser I've ever had, like in terms of maintenance and effort put in. It was incredible. So we went to Greenston. We did a Acts of Valor campaign. Okay, first of all, I met Taylor at Rick Anstis golf outing in Buchanan. Get this, we were in Buchanan, where I live, smoking weed all over this fucking golf course. It was the best day. I have so many pictures of my mom smoking weed all over the place, you know. I mean, I have pictures of Brenda, and she's just always fucking smoking weed, so how it goes. But I had met Taylor there, and he was like, Josey, I'm doing a Acts of Valor campaign, and we want to take on nonprofits, and we want you to come out, and then we'll do $1 from every gram sold, and then the retailers will choose the charities and then match that, you know. So I was like, okay, that sounds awesome. I get a lot of opportunities, a lot of everything. I've been able to do really cool stuff, and it's all at the opportunities given to me by people that I love and appreciate. And so I was really excited about it, but I couldn't even expect it, right? So Lake Effect chose Sons and Daughters United to do the first Acts of Valor campaign, and it was incredible. We were there for 3 fucking hours. We raised $1,300. And I sold like a dozen t-shirts, and we did like 4 expungement screenings, and it was incredible. It was so fun. And we might have seen, I don't know, less than 30 folks. So to raise that much money, and we had the time of our lives. Also, I think Taylor and I had a blast. You know how we get.
Jump in, Taylor.
And nobody had
it's
ever
always
done the most
eventful.
legitimate thing. You know, it was a really good idea. It was not a smoke and mirrors project. I was like, damn, you know, Taylor knocked this shit out of the park. And then Greenstem wanted to do one, and so we went over and we did one at Greenstem, and we sold out of all of the weed in I don't know, an hour and a half. We had Culvers in like a celebration in the parking lot. There was like nothing else to sell. And they were like, hey, I think we should do more, you know, we should do this again. So we came back and they really we pushed the campaign. Sorry, you guys aren't the only ones smoking weed. I mean, I don't know. We pushed the campaign a lot more that time, and we put it all over social media, and we sold $8,820. Who's counting, bitch? Me. I can't believe it. So get this. Greenstem chose the busiest hour that they sold cannabis and then doubled it. They gave $2 instead of $1. It was incredible. And yes, thank you, Zoe. And just like 3 weeks prior, they gave us $1,300 for that one that we sold all the weed for too quickly. Not only did they learn from the lessons, but they were like, hey, wait, this is like a real thing. We can actually make something out of this. We can make a purchase with a purpose, right? And make no mistake, when people are making millions of dollars or perceived to make millions of dollars, or if you're working in this industry, you have a certain obligation to either have some skin in the game, meaning you were arrested, you've seen this firsthand, or put your money where your mouth is, meaning, hey, it wasn't me, but I'm glad it wasn't. I'm happy to support other people, right? Valor has done that time and time again. And this is not a big company. This is not $18,000 company. I mean, I'm pretty sure that Taylor's going to be like, Josey, I feel like that was a lot of fun, and I'm glad we could do it, but we got to put some limits out here, girl. You know?
Hey, Joe, earlier today, Taylor was estimating over $9,000 total donation. What you just said is 88 in one trip and 1,300 in the other, so over 10 grand.
Over $10,000. Incredible.
Fantastic.
In
Even
like
better.
3 weeks. From
That's
2
great.
small family-owned businesses in Southwest Michigan, because Southwest Michigan represents. They show up, you know. I mean, all of Michigan does. Expungement's a thing that is just so in line with Michigan values. We've always been purple from the day we were I guess, conceived, and Michigan loves an underdog. I mean, that's why we root for the Lions. You know what I'm saying? I'm really excited to have Taylor on here. And something else that's great about Valor is that good quality cannabis should be affordable. It should be accessible. You should smoke it and you should be like, shit, like, what is that? You know, and it shouldn't cost you an arm and a leg. And Valor does exactly that. And so I'm so glad when Jamie called me to do it, he was like, well, Taylor's going to be on there. And I was like, yes, because the world needs to know that Taylor is the best and Valor is good. And you can find it, I mean, geez, all over the state, right?
Yeah, definitely a green stem. But yeah, multiple places all over the state. You can actually go to the website, valorcraft.com, and they'll have a list of some of our most recent customers on there.
Including Meds Cafe, of course.
Oh, we had a great time.
We did a lot of great work in Manistee for the Halloween.
Some of our audio-only customers might have missed what just happened, but Senator Jeff Irwin is urging Stacey to run for office in 2024. I think that's pretty significant.
That was I think he looks like a guy.
That wasn't
Yeah. Well, let's pretend that's what just happened then.
That was actually well-known cannabis advocate in Connecticut, Lou Rinaldi. Shout out to Lou Rinaldi, who's doing great work over there in Connecticut.
Right on.
That's fantastic. Sorry about that, Lou. I messed you up. But Josey, go ahead and talk some more about how awesome Taylor is, because you were doing great.
It's so easy, you know, it's so good. I'm really excited. And it's not just us, right? He did that campaign with Kyle up at
Lighten Up.
And Kyle's consistently just so, when we're talking about charitable giving, how do we not talk about Kyle giving out 1,000 turkeys and
He's going to do that
Flint?
again this year.
Incredible. He's doing it again,
Love the
and he's
research.
extending it to help do it in Grand Rapids
Kyle
with
Cohe, Lightning from
Farmhouse and in Jackson at Stone Depot, which I will be at. And I don't know why it took me so long to say that, but I'm so excited because Danielle does it up. We all know.
They're one of our sponsors,
Yeah.
you know. Stone Depot, excellent cannabis.
Exceptional cannabis is what it says.
Weighing in on the elections discussion,
Protect your cooter.
English James.
I love
Wow, protect your cooter, don't vote for Tudor. That's
man.
interesting rhyme scheme there, big dogs. Okay, good job, English James. We love it. Fantastic. So fun. We have so many great people watching today. It's a wonderful show. Great conversation, lovely people, nothing but positive things to talk about. And you know what? It makes me happy. Josey always makes me happy though. She's always a smile.
Yeah.
Same. I
So-
will be out at the turkey giveaway as well, and we have done a ton of work with Kyle and Lighten Up. We worked with Genesee County Veteran Services and raised over $2,000, which were turned into like Visa gift cards. It basically just allows them to cut through the bureaucracy, get through all the red tape, and directly help veterans in need quickly. So I know so far we've already helped people who, there was a young lady, she served in the Army and didn't even have a bed to sleep on. We were able to go quickly, get, a full mattress set, nice sheets and nice comforter. We're able to get some clothes and stuff like that for her and her child. So, just it's so rewarding to be able to do these things. And again, it goes back to people deserve to be able to move on with their life and get their records expunged. People who have served our country deserve to have a decent bed to sleep in at night. It's just basic stuff. It seems so simple. It seems so obvious. And yet here we are having to make these initiatives happen so that people are getting what they deserve and what they need. So kudos to Josey and Kyle, just for being on the forefront of doing the things that we really should have been doing all along. But it takes people like that to make it happen. So great, just really grateful to be able to work with everybody involved.
Kyle makes it happen for sure. And just like we were at Meds Cafe Friday. Everything is one big day, I feel.
Friday, I think everybody was.
So we were at Meds Cafe on Friday, and it was incredible. There was a lot of folks we met 3 people that had already gotten their records expunged. They were selling the ounces for like $100, and then $52 of that was going back to us. I mean, nothing's putting your money where your mouth is quite like that. They had orchestrated a couple other things, like raffle items to get us some money, and had worked with Space Labs, Kyle Chipman and Ed and the team out there, the former New Genetics, to get another $750 donation in there. It's getting towards the end of the year. It is charitable giving time, and there are a lot of really great opportunities and a lot of great ways to verify those websites at Great Lakes Expungement Network, at Sons and Daughters United, at the Redemption Foundation. You can find ways to verify, like verification links, but you can also just Google these places and see where there's 501c3s. Again, I think that it is also a hard time. It's a time you should talk to your cannabis accountant about how these things can work and how to structure them in a way that they are tax deductible for you. Remembering that our industry is not like any other industry, and the ability to function in a way that is fair and just doesn't happen, right?
That's true.
Right on.
Putting Great Lakes and Sons and Daughters here, but there's also, Josey mentioned redemption too.
It does help though when you walk into this knowing that you're going to run across illogical thinking, you're going to run across unscientific conclusions, and you're going to have difficulty trying to get things done in our industry. It's just it. If you think that it's easy, I mean, you haven't been paying attention. at all. So we have extra challenges. And that's why when people like Taylor are successful, and then not only successful to the level of satisfaction, but then to go above and beyond, that's exceptional, because oftentimes people just can't anymore.
And it's so hard. We're in a market right now where it's really hard to give money, right? And so like Mark and Tony, I already know, Mark and Tony are saints. I fucking know, dude. Like, listen to this. I called Tony. I was like, girl, I want to be represented at this event. Like, Muskegon's really showing up for it. I want to be here. I can't, I've been trying to clone myself, but I'm not nearly as smart as I think I am. And it hasn't happened, And she was like, I will meet you in Muskegon, girl. Don't you worry. They loaded the stuff up. They sold the shit out of the t-shirts. They met Brandon from Muskegon, and they were just pedaling, man. They were pushing expungements. They went out to Archie's for me. I mean, I understand where we are, and there is blood, sweat, and tears put into this program from all areas of the state, from people that don't brag about it. It's crazy. It's so incredibly insane how intense and diverse the network really gets, and the number of people that it touches, and the number of people that it could potentially reach. Because remember, 2.5 million people have criminal records in Michigan. Mm-hmm. And these are your doctors, these are your Sunday school teachers, this is your favorite gas station attendant, these are some of your bosses, and I think that there is so much to be said to, I did the crime, I did the time, and then I just don't want to pay for that time until the day that I die, right? So I appreciate being on the show. I'm so grateful to be here. Never stop talking, so I guess it's...
You say some good stuff, though, Josey. That's
I'm so excited to be here, though.
Rockstar.
I think that when the UFCW came in and did Loom, which I saw Stacy was like really following pretty intensely, something that was interesting for me is the fact that it really is so much more. Remember that the union is the largest purchaser of healthcare in the United States. You will never get affordable healthcare if you are owning a cannabis business, like straight up. You are green tax to everything. I don't have to tell you this. I have friends that pay $58,000 a month in rent for their processing place. It's crazy, right? This is green tax. It's real for all of us. But the union purchases it. You're buying it from the union at a fair price, just like if you were a construction worker or a regular agriculture dynamic. And a lot of you already have wonderful setups. And so working out, it doesn't have to be a fight. And often in other states, it's not a fight. And so you see people go into it and they save thousands of dollars a year, just on insurance alone. So I know union is a scary word, but Stacey's right. It's not.
I believe in the union.
It's common.
Right. It's what built the middle class. It's why we have a 5-day work week. It's why, generally people aren't getting their arms ripped off every day. It's really, the union is very, very important. And, with the fact that, again, this is a fresh new industry and the businesses aren't doing a sufficient job at, I guess, policing themselves or doing the right thing to the best of their ability for the employees, that having, the balance come in with the union is really important. Now, that isn't always the best option, depending on, the size of the company. There's also worker co-ops. There's a few other things that you can do as well. But unionizing is a really good way to get a standard set that we just don't see right now.
And I think that, outside of labor peace agreements and entering here in Michigan, right, the ability for folks, something that is a big misconception on all levels is that people that own these cannabis business are making millions of dollars. So making money at all is actually like a thing that is not really happening, considering the, at least not at the rate that they were portrayed, not at the rate that the fleet, like, when you're watching Cops and they're like, it was $30,000 worth of weed and it's like 5 ounces and a package of edibles, same thing,
Street value.
People took out real tax loans. They took out real loans that were green tax, and they They bought buildings that they were paying for in $2,500, $3,500 pounds. And more so, they entered this business not understanding that they were never going to be able to deduct anything that they spent on this business. Employees, overhead. And remember, that usually puts you in a 35% tax bracket. So if you're paying 35% of your money overall, no matter what it is, into taxes before you pay anybody else, it creates a deficit. And I know we all saw that wonderful article that Rick had shared where people literally owe more in taxes, like millions of dollars more in taxes than what they have in their goddamn bank accounts. So the game is to be strong enough to make a presence and to have a following when they eventually make it so that you can deduct things like a real business, right? And how strong will our industry, which already is pretty much not profiting overall in these big corporations like we think they are, when it comes down to paying taxes, how great will this industry really truly be? I mean, I think that this is incredible. And when we're really looking at Curaleaf specifically, where they owe literally millions of dollars more than what they have in their fucking bank accounts, and they still have to pay people. That is a problem, right? And they're still paying people like 3 figures. Their C-suite, and they are still paying a livable wage, which is something, even at the retailers, they're still paying a livable wage. So I cannot fucking wait until we are able to be treated like a real business, until our bosses are able to really get immersed on that. But I don't think the narrative is true in terms of people. I went to this event, this interchange event, where fucking nobody has a business yet, and they're gonna make $1 million. It was 2009, we're gonna make $1 million and you're gonna make $1 million too. But the thing is that nobody has. I don't think there's been a person that has made individually $1 million off this industry, and especially not one that's not in heavy debt. The people that are able to stay through this will be people, that have deep pockets other places or were self-funded from the start.
So I was at that event also.
It was good.
And definitely got the, you could see the companies that were hanging in there doing okay. They kind of fit that mold of those who have the awareness, the historical and cultural perspective, who understand the importance of maintaining relationships and, getting through these tough times, like that. And
there were great people there. And there was just a bunch of new people that had no idea clearly what was going on or what was going to happen.
Well, we're told that the industry is doing so well. What were the numbers, Rick?
As far as gross sales?
Gross sales this year.
Oh, yeah.
Depends on which one you look at. The medical marijuana going straight down. Regulated cannabis going straight up.
But it's going up at a higher rate than it's going down.
Yeah.
So that's a plus.
But there are a lot of problems with the industry right now, which is true.
In previous years, we just had a high in July, but now we've had 3 highs already this year. Just in the last 5 months, we've had 3 record highs. So that kind of defies the existing trend. Go ahead, Jamie. I'm sorry.
No. I was just pointing out that while that is true, what you are saying, the industry still has a lot of issues, and as Josey is saying, there's not a lot of revenue being generated. It's a volume, but not a lot of revenue generated.
When someone says the industry is doing well, what's their metric? Because you can't just look at gross sales, because there's a lot of companies failing. Is that
what I enjoyed most?
The failure rate of the industry? How do we do that? Good is subjective.
That's what I'm saying.
Go ahead,
When they had that, you guys were talking about, everybody was talking about, mandatory minimum pricing, for example. And Rick said something, and so did Matt, that was very resonating with me, which was, we did not legalize cannabis for anyone other than the consumer, right? Believe it or not, mandatory minimum pricing was not to keep alcohol businesses alive. There's 5 distributors in the state, for alcohol in that terms. And mandatory minimum pricing was to keep people from dying in the streets. I mean, nobody is doing that. You can buy, let me tell you, you can buy a lot of weed and not die in the streets. I'd be the one to tell you, I put some weight in there.
It's been confirmed
But that
Can
alcohol
confirm.
moderation, they stopped
Oh.
the drop in price from alcohol was the mandatory minimums, and that did save lives. Josie's right.
Right. It was not to save businesses. It was to save lives. And the data supports that, right? If you drop the price of if more people can buy cannabis, no one's gonna die from it, you know. In fact, we might make a couple more friends, right? You know what I'm saying? And if cannabis is affordable, it's accessible. And if we really understand what the consumer is, because remember when we legalized cannabis in 2018 and everybody was like, oh, the consumer's the people that haven't smoked weed before. Like, nah, the consumer is my mom who buys 6 ounces of weed on the 1st of every month and then wants me to buy 2 more on the 15th. That is the consumer. The consumer is not grandma who smoked 3 joints in 2 weeks and wants 2 milligram gummies. I mean, that will never be the way to do it. And also this idea that that the entire culture has changed because it's legalized and that people want to, I don't know, go into a goddamn Apple store to buy weed and ask for cat piss. Like, it's not, it's not real. There's so many businesses that have been created by people that don't smoke fucking weed, that don't belong here, and they sit in a boardroom and they dictate what you like as a consumer, right? So when you're giving money, it's so important to know who the fuck the money goes to, right? And I know for a lot of us going from advocacy into industry, we were so heartbroken to work for some of the folks that we had to work for, right? And I scored really big with Ryan, and I think I say this all the time, but you either usually have to choose between liking that product and liking the person, and it's gold. And it's different with Ryan Basor, and the fact that he was he was incarcerated federally. People like that don't get a chance to own any business. Statistically, they're chronically depressed for 10 years after that, and the ability to find housing, employment, let alone start a risky business like cannabis, is not usually in sight. So when we buy cannabis, there's ability to align it with our values, just like with Taylor, just like Tree Town at Sugar Bush. And there's a lot of places where they're really putting their money where their mouth is. But make no mistake, there are a lot of people that don't give a fuck about it. They don't care about Michigan. They can't pronounce Dawajak. I don't know where you are. They don't understand what you're doing. And you don't have to spend your money there. Eh?
Yeah.
I do. I'm been talking a lot. But can we talk about our holiday drive, Jamie?
And the telethon too. You're involved in the telethon also.
We should talk about they connect. Yes. So we've been doing our telethon too. We've been doing our holiday drive.
telethon November 9, 6 p.m.
And it's going to be here too, right? You guys are going to have it on Jazz Cabbage.
I don't know if it's a simulcast with Jazz Cabbage or not. Jamie is the tech guy over there and look. Does he look impressed? I don't think he looks like he's
I know that we're going to be on it. I don't know what
it's going to be great. So
what the whole set of circumstances are.
This is our 7th year doing our holiday drive. And remember that when we started this, 100% of people that qualified, 100% of legal cannabis consumers were medical marijuana patients, right? And so the requirements for the drive are either one family member has to be disabled or household member has to be incarcerated. And in 2013, I mean, the pick was there. It was everybody. All of our friends were getting arrested. Jamie flew this stupid airplane that said "fuck you, Shooty," or it actually said "Why does Shooty hate patients?" But
Big
I mean,
Daddy
it's the same thing.
and
then
Mac,
we got raided by 4 days later.
Yes,
Insane.
Shooty, why do you hate patients or something like that?
Same thing. I mean, that's pretty much what I said. So it was I don't know. It was a different time. It was very easy to find people that were candidates for this. And they fit right into, cannabis consumers, cannabis cultures, the industry. We get all the gifts that are on the list, and that's fair. A lot of places don't do that. But then we also do things that meet people where they are. So last year we had a girl with Parkinson's. She was in her 20s, had a 4-year-old son, was sleeping, sitting up on her couch. We bought her a hospital bed, but not like any kind of hospital bed, a queen size hospital bed, because there's nothing more dehumanizing. There's nothing more dehumanizing than, sleeping in a single bed, a hospital bed when you're 26. We bought a washer and a dryer for a family who had autistic twins who were not potty trained, and they were going to like the laundromat 5 times a week. They were like 9 years old. I mean, this is stuff that really finds where the real issues are, issues that we can solve for years to come, and meets people where they are. So
And then you also like to throw in some real just fun prizes and gifts.
Yeah,
and,
so we
stuff
always
like
get
that for them too.
everybody gets a food basket and like a gift card for gas. And then we get usually, God, it's dramatic. Last year we had 17 gifts per child on average. We will get, bicycles, game systems, computers. This is, for a lot of people, the holidays is just a reminder of their situation. And if somebody has got a family member that's incarcerated, we enroll them in our connection grant, which gives them up to $100 a month to stay connected to their loved ones. There's a lot of places that you can invest your money in the holidays, and a lot of ways to do this. But I feel nothing really gets as local or as personable or as over the top. I guess maybe it's just the right number, is what we're doing. So if you own a dispensary or a retailer, or you know somebody that's in there, you can visit the redemptionfoundation.org/holiday to apply. If you usually sponsor something like this and you want to get a tax deduction or to work with a nonprofit, let us know.
Josey, let me have you get a hold of Selena at Grassy Knoll, because she did say that she wanted to have Great Lakes Expungement there. And she's been having.
So if you don't know, Selena is the goddess that has been presented to us by Mark and Tony. It's their daughter, and she's amazing. And she's an HBIC at Grassy Knoll in Muskegon. If you're out there, give them a shout. They really have a good menu out there. I think we all love Selena and the Grassy Knoll, and they should be on our telethon. So all the money we raise at the telethon goes to these families. And so, for example, if the Grassy Knoll wanted to select a family in there, we can get them on the telethon and talking about that. And I think last year we had like Stone Depot had taken on a family, and they were really generous about it. And they're doing it again this year.
So
Danielle was just here chiming in. So
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Speaking of Stone Depot, yeah.
I was looking for Danielle, and I kept saying, do you know there's a girl who looks just like Topanga? And they were like, oh yeah, girl, I saw her. And I found her so quickly every time I look for her. She's a goddess. So hit me up, come, apply for our program if you know somebody that needs some extra holiday cheer. We started this with Jamie Fricky at the Thin Green Line, and it was incredible. And it was everything we needed. I think the first year we brought in $5,000, and that was incredible. And last year, the 6th year, we did $21,000. It's insane. So I'm really grateful to be here.
Yeah, that's so cool.
All that you do, Josey, we've been a big supporter all through the years, and people don't recognize your accomplishments in the cannabis industry itself, with being the first, pediatric patient, and going from being a pediatric patient into being an adult use consumer and a medical patient as well. It's a kind of a unique story.
I definitely grew up in the industry, and I was guided by a lot of really powerful, wonderful women. And I think when we legalized marijuana and we said minors would do it, we never thought it would be a 14-year-old in Etnies, So I went out and I was really trained by ASA, and I wish that Brandy was here. And really, Americans for Safe Access was the first time that I had seen people that looked like me, people like in wheelchairs, people that were visibly disabled, together actively, like Oh, it was incredible. And then I had met John Targowski when I was 15 years old. He's a local
an attorney.
attorney. It changed my fucking life, dude. I was like, I am gonna do that. I've never seen, to this day, I have never seen anybody in a wheelchair that worked a job. It was like I didn't know, I had no idea that
He was one of our really good, really smart medical marijuana attorneys for a long time. He ended up moving out to California to work in the federal law system as a defender.
What a stout gentleman!
But yeah, he's
good
awesome.
human being. Yep.
And I was really just lucky to be here for sure. And so I do have a lot of people have seen me. It's funny. Graduate high school, graduate college, have a baby, start Sons and Daughters, start the Great Lakes Expungement Network. So I'm so blessed to be around people that love me, that inspire me, that want to build something great, and that are willing to do the work, because it is incredibly difficult. It's not just me. There's a big team that is consistently working on this, and they're working on it because they love it,
Yep.
Right on, Joe.
The Cannabis Gives Back Telethon will feature a couple of hours of conversation. Different people have given donations towards the charities we mentioned in order to be able to talk a little bit about their company, what they do, how they support, and their best wishes for the year going forward. So there are just a ton of people. Ryan Basor and I spoke on the phone this morning. He said he's got all of the spaces booked up. I'm sure that we could probably extend it if someone had money in their hand and wanted to give, because that's what it's all about. So contact, again, Josey or Ryan Basor at Redemption Cannabis in order to find out more about how you might be able to participate if you still want to try and get in.
Awesome.
I just assume
Very cool.
that Valorcraft is
Valor.
It's Valor.
Valorcraft is participating in some way. Of course, not absolutely mandatory, because already been doing such a lot of great work, and not trying to pile on, but it just seems like the kind of thing that would be of interest to you guys.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I know that they were going to talk a little bit about what we've done with the Acts of Valor campaign and stuff like that. But yeah, I'd love to get involved somehow and see what we can do for sure.
It was really cool last year. It drew a lot of attention and a lot of goodwill and stuff like that. So seems like you guys would fit in pretty well,
People have only 5 minutes or so to talk about themselves. They cram a bunch of stuff in it, and people are funnier than they give themselves credit for too. So it's a good watch. It's a great time.
That's awesome.
Hey, so you've been hanging out with us for a lot of the show, Taylor. I really appreciate the info you had to provide. We're homing in a few minutes and talk about a couple things. Is there anything else about the company, about what's going on, that you sort of make sure that you get in on this conversation?
Yeah. Well, we're constantly finding new things to do, new things to participate in. If you want to learn more about us, obviously you can go to valorcraft.com. And you can find information about our THC products, but also our hemp-based CBD products that we have under Valorcraft Performance. But our Instagram, Facebook is just Valorcraft Canna, and you can find us there. But yeah, definitely check in. I'm always on there and posting stuff and just kind of updating people where I am and trying to get the word out. So definitely check us out, see what we're doing. And look for the updates. Excited to see what else happens with the rest of this year. I know we got obviously the turkey giveaway, and I'm sure we'll be planning some more things with Glenn. But yeah, thank you so much for having me on. It's been really insightful just to get to listen to everybody's insight and perspectives. And again, I can't thank Josey enough for just being just the pioneer that she is and the hustler that she is. She's always everywhere, and I feel like people say that about me, but I don't even think I come close to all the appearances that Josey has to make. So thank you, Josey, for being able to work with us and give us any sort of platform to help you guys is definitely an honor.
Very cool. And
Thanks, Taylor.
We didn't refer
Thank you,
to it,
guys.
but Taylor's also a singer, songwriter, guitar player, and has performed at these functions. Many, I'm sure, at large as well, but at a few of the cannabis events, the last year and stuff like that. So didn't even include that, but that's something that people should check out when they get an opportunity as well.
Sweet.
Yeah, I appreciate it. It was cutting out there a little bit, so I don't know if you're looking for me to respond. But if you are interested in hearing any of that, it's just Daisy Box, all one word. You can look it up wherever you listen to music.
Right on. Thank
Great.
you.
Thanks again,
So,
guys.
yeah, no problem. Stacy, I we don't have that much time left, but I did want to find out, are you still working with like people from Loom? Has there been some progress with the union stuff that Josey brought up earlier? Can you just get a couple minutes worth of some updates on this stuff that's going on?
Yeah, for sure. There's definitely a lot of outreach going on right now. And I definitely want to give a big shout out to anybody that's a trimmer working for any trim companies right now. There's been an overwhelming amount of people reaching out because they're getting the short end of the stick. There's a lot of promises that have been made as far as, getting bonuses and whatnot, and employees just aren't getting paid. So, this
Is this still valid?
Craptober, say that again?
Is this still valid? Help for Loom workers?
Yes. And also there's help for cannabis workers at gmail.com as well. So if you're working this Craptober in Movember and, you're noticing some issues at work, definitely reach out and, see what we can do about it. But yeah, there's a lot going on. Loom, it's just my assumption that they're going to continue to keep, doing some layoffs, doing some closings. They did do that sort of switcheroo on a bunch of workers where they said, hey, your position is no longer needed. So we're either going to give you, 1 week's pay, or you can go and work at our outdoor crop for 6 weeks and then reapply for your job at the end of November. So that definitely happened. And, there was a lot of people that ended up taking that because, they needed to. It's leading up to the holidays. You can't not everybody has the ability to, quit their job. And so, yeah, that's what's going on with Loom. There's still stuff going on with Gage as well. A lot of big layoffs. And, we could definitely talk about that in depth at another point in time. But, yeah, guys, appreciate all the exposure and, shout out to all the workers out there chugging through and, bringing us the sweet cannabis from this recent Craptober. And hopefully we get to discuss more of workers' issues, a sooner than later time.
Ongoing discussion and, like having you on here, become part of whatever discussion we happen to have, but always make sure we check in on the work that you're doing and the focus that you're putting in on, the issues with the industry and how labor is being affected and stuff. Appreciate
you guys, big time.
Yep. Hey, so Mark and Tony, anything you want to make sure you get in before we wrap it up?
You guys are all role models to me, so keep up the good work. But nobody has a bigger heart than Josey in this group, so I'm happy to be a part of it.
Right on.
Josey he was sitting here saying, well, Josey. Josey.
Nice.
The big fan club.
This comes from people that drove 3 hours to help me set up a booth for nothing.
We're like, hell yeah.
Oh, Josey's the best. What? Mark and Tony are the best. I can't. I love these guys.
We're going out to Washington and we're going to do some stuff. We're going to start some stuff and we're looking forward to always having Rick and Jamie to be able to guide us and give us great information. You guys, you're just so crucial to how we operate. To be able to call you and say, hey, this happened. It's outstanding. So just thank you so much for that.
Wait, you're moving to Washington or you're just visiting Washington?
Going out to DC for a conference. They're representing Michigan. Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
like, wait a minute.
I thought you were surprised that she was giving us credit for something at first, but
Yeah, I didn't know how much I didn't know she was gonna do all that for the $20 you said you paid her. I was like, that was
Wow.
pretty good.
Yeah, Indigenous Cannabis Industry Association and the Indigenous Cannabis Policy Summit.
Oh,
Yeah, so it's gonna be super awesome to talk about it when we come back.
what a good representative for Michigan. You guys are the best.
Taylor dropped, but he's saying love being part of the
Yeah.
show. So
He
hey,
said-
yeah,
he
go ahead,
said
Adam.
Phone died. Actually,
Yep.
Group.
Phone night. But Adam, go ahead. Please let us know anything you want to make sure you get in here before we wrap up.
Oh, I just want people to know they need to be on their toes and pay attention to what is happening in the legislature because these guys are slimy. And
Oh,
Right on.
true
We need
that,
med cards.
motherfucker.
Promote getting med cards to everybody. Everybody needs to get their med card.
yeah, I tell
Please.
people
Support the
that,
program.
It's probably just common sense. Like,
but
don't sell unlicensed weed with your phone number on it. You know. The fuck?
if you get your med card, that's like buying a vote. That's literally telling the legislators that I'm a part of this program. And if we could increase those numbers by a significant amount, that would be life changing. That would totally change the direction that things are going, I believe.
Card campaign.
Right on.
Card campaign.
It's still a good idea to get the card for many reasons, but good to have you back on today. I know you haven't been on for a little bit, been through some stuff, but nice to have you today.
I appreciate it. I get the invite, and your show starts at nap time, so
if you happen to be awake, then we'll get you. That's cool.
yeah, I'm awake. You got me.
But I appreciate everybody's participation today. Taylor, who had to drop. But like everybody's input, I'm trying to think if anybody else was on. Was anybody else on?
No.
I think it was
I think so.
All right. Well, yeah. Regardless, if some phantom participant was on, we appreciate that too.
If they were on, how rude. Wow.
All the comments.
Hey, it was just Halloween, so there's a little bit of a poetic license.
You're not sure who you saw.
Right. So anyway, thanks to everybody. Another good show. And Rick, if you don't mind, to wrapping us up.
Okay, first of all, vote November 8th. It's the most important thing you can do. Very seldom do you get to tell government how to screw off, and this is one of the ways to do it. So if you don't participate, other people make decisions that affect your life, and that's not good. What you heard today is such positivity, money being raised, an industry that we could focus on the negatives on, but today it was all positive. The charitable gifts, the organization that's taken place over years and years and years with Josey continually, even going back to the Jamie Fricke days with Thin Green Line. That's a reference I haven't heard in a long time. But I think the overall message is that our culture, the people who really make up our culture, the individuals on this call, the humans, not the companies, our culture is alive, well, and helping other people out. And we don't get credit for that. It's just something we do because we're great people. But maybe we should focus a little bit more on getting credit for that, because that's the impression we want other people to have of what they can expect when they say yes to cannabis liberalization in their township, their village, their city, or their state, or their country. So that's my message. Continue the positive stories. Let's keep bumping everybody up, and don't be afraid to sing your own success stories. Everybody should hear about it. That's it. It's my turn.
Thanks a lot, you guys.
Later.
See you guys.
Peace.